All right, ready to dive in. Today we're taking a look at magnetic messaging, the key lock sequence.
Ooh, that's a catchy title.
It is, right. And it promises to, well, turn your phone into a magnet for women.
Hmm, that's a pretty bold claim.
It is, definitely. I was pretty skeptical when I first heard about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, what's the book all about?
Well, the basic premise is that there's this specific sequence of three texts.
Three texts.
Yeah, they call it the key lock sequence. And supposedly, if you send these texts in the right order,
You can just unlock a woman's heart.
well, not exactly. It's more about piquing her interest, building a connection.
Okay, so it's not like some magic spell or anything.
Right. But the book definitely makes some big promises. It's all about using text messaging to create attraction and ultimately get a date.
Interesting. So it's not just about what you say in the text, but also how you use them strategically.
Exactly. It's all about timing, psychology, and, well, a bit of clever wording.
I'm intrigued. So, what's the book's take on attraction then?
Well, the authors start by debunking what they call the myth of attraction.
The myth.
Yeah. It's this idea that attraction is like a static thing.
Like you either have it or you don't.
Exactly. And they argue that this is way too simplistic. Attraction, they say, is much more fluid.
It can change and evolve?
Right. So even if you didn't, like, make an amazing first impression,
There's still hope.
totally,
Yeah.
they believe you can absolutely re-spark that interest.
And texting is the key.
That's their focus, yeah. Because, let's face it, texting is how we communicate these days.
True. So how do they propose we use texting to create attraction?
Well, one of the core concepts is this idea of an attraction anchor. Have you ever noticed how, like, a certain song or smell can trigger a memory or a feeling?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like the smell of freshly baked bread always takes me back to my grandma's kitchen.
Exactly. So magnetic messaging is about becoming that kind of anchor for a woman, but through texting.
Like linking yourself to positive emotions and experiences in her mind.
That's the idea. And that's where their key lock sequence comes in.
Okay, let's hear about this sequence.
So it's a three-part texting strategy.
Three parts, all right?
Yeah, and it's designed to, first, grab her attention,
Okay, that makes sense.
then build a connection, and finally, make her want to see you.
Sounds pretty strategic.
It is. So the first text is called the intriguing opener.
Intriguing, I like it.
It's all about sending something that piques her curiosity or sparks an emotion.
So not your typical, hey, what's up?
Definitely not. The book gives a bunch of examples, like using humor, a playful challenge, or even a bit of mystery.
So right from the start, you're trying to stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. And once you've got her attention,
Then what?
the second text is all about bonding.
Ah, so this is where you build rapport.
Right. You might share a funny anecdote or find some common ground. It's about showing her you get her.
Going beyond the superficial small talk.
Exactly. And then the third text in the sequence is where you subtly introduce the idea of meeting up.
Okay, so planting the seed but not being pushy about it.
Exactly. It's all about building anticipation and making her think, I'd actually like to spend time with this guy.
So the key lock sequence is like this subtle dance leading from initial interest to a real-life date.
That's a great way to put it. It's about guiding the conversation, but in a way that feels natural and effortless.
I'm starting to see the appeal of this.
Yeah, it's definitely a different approach to dating.
Yeah.
But the question is, does it actually work?
Well, that's what we're here to explore. Let's dive into the details and see what magnetic messaging has to offer.
Sounds good to me. Let's unlock the secrets of this so-called key lock sequence and see if it lives up to the hype.
I'm ready. You know, one thing I really like about this book is it stresses being genuine.
Yeah, that's important. A lot of dating advice can feel, I don't know, kind of fake.
Right, like you're putting on an act. But magnetic messaging talks about this thing called attractive communication.
Attractive communication. What's that all about?
It's about letting your real personality come through in your texts.
Oh, so it's not just about using the right techniques.
No, it's about using them in a way that feels true to you.
Because you want someone who's into you for you.
Exactly. And the book gives a lot of practical tips on how to do that, like using humor.
Humor's always good.
Yeah, but it has to be your kind of humor, you know?
Right.
What else?
Well, they talk about being a little vulnerable when it's appropriate.
Oh, that's interesting, like opening up a bit.
Yeah, just enough to create a connection. And they also talk about the power of storytelling.
Storytelling in
Yeah.
a text message.
Yeah, like sharing little anecdotes that reveal something about you.
Like a mini adventure you had.
Exactly.
Ah,
Or a funny observation. It's about evoking emotions, making her feel something.
that makes sense. Stories can really draw you in.
They can. But, okay, I have a confession to make.
What's that?
I know some guys, and they are just terrible texters.
Oh, yeah, we all know those guys.
The one-word responses, the bad grammar, it's painful.
Does the book offer any hope for them?
It does. There's a whole section called Never Send These Texts.
Oh, that sounds helpful. It is. It points out all the common mistakes guys make that totally kill attraction.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, one of the biggest ones is being too generic.
Like, hey, how's it going?
Exactly. Or, what are you up to? Those kinds of texts just get lost in the noise.
Yeah, they don't exactly make a great impression.
Nope. And another big mistake is being too eager.
Oh, like blowing up her phone if she doesn't answer right away?
Exactly. Double texting, sending a million questions, that kind of thing.
So it's about finding that balance between showing interest and giving her space.
Right. Magnetic messaging is all about pacing yourself, creating a little mystery.
And letting the conversation unfold naturally.
Exactly. But, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
The elephant, what do you mean?
This sexual inception thing.
Oh, yeah, that definitely caught my attention.
Mine too. It sounds a little intense.
It does. Can you explain what it's all about?
So, sexual inception is about using suggestion.
Suggestion. Like through text.
Yeah, the idea is to subtly plant thoughts in her mind, make her think about you.
Think about you in a certain way.
Exactly. But it's not about being overtly sexual or anything like that.
Okay, good, because that would just be creepy.
Right. It's more about using evocative language, playful innuendo.
So like sparking her imagination, but subtly?
Right. And the book emphasizes that this should only be used when there's already some attraction.
Yeah, you can't just jump into that with a stranger.
Definitely not. It's about building on an existing connection.
And always being respectful, of course.
Absolutely. The authors are very clear about that.
Okay, that makes me feel better. But I still think this technique requires a lot of finesse.
Oh, for sure. But if you can pull it off.
It could be pretty powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and it's called the infatuation formula.
The infatuation formula. Sounds intriguing.
It is. This is where the book gets into the psychology of attraction, like how to create a deep connection.
Okay, I'm listening.
So it breaks down attraction into these core principles.
Principles.
Like what?
Well, one of the big ones is creating scarcity.
Scarcity. What does that mean?
It means don't be too available. Don't be the guy who's always texting, always waiting around.
Oh, so like play it a little cool.
Exactly. The idea is that by being a little less available, you actually become more desirable.
Makes sense. What other principles are there?
Well, there's building emotional momentum.
Emotional momentum. Okay.
Tell me more.
It's about consistently creating positive experiences with you.
Like doing fun things together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or having deep conversations, being thoughtful. It's about building that connection over time.
So it's about going beyond that initial spark.
Exactly. And magnetic messaging has a ton of advice on how to do that.
So this infatuation formula, is it specific to texting, or is it more of a general dating philosophy?
It's both, actually. The book focuses on texting, but the principles can be applied to any interaction.
So it's about understanding the psychology of attraction and using that knowledge to create a connection.
Exactly. And whether you're texting or talking face-to-face, the principles are the same.
I like that. It's about being intentional, creating a magnetic presence.
That's a great way to put it. So what do you think so far? Are you starting to feel a little less skeptical?
I am, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this stuff sounds a little out there, but there's a lot of good stuff here, too. I like how it's not just about tricks. It's about understanding what makes people tick.
I agree. And ultimately, isn't that what we all want? To connect with someone who gets us.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next? What else does this book cover? So we've really dug deep into magnetic messaging, haven't we?
We have covered a lot of ground.
From that key lock sequence to the whole infatuation formula thing.
And all those little nuances in between, like attractive communication.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride, honestly.
It has. But I'm curious, what's your overall impression now?
You know, I have to say, I'm impressed.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, some of it's a bit out there, sure.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really smart stuff in there, too.
Right. Like, it really makes you think about attraction in a different way.
It does. And I like how it's not about playing games or trying to trick women.
Exactly. It's about genuine connection.
Yeah, it's about understanding what creates that spark and using that knowledge ethically.
Because at the end of the day, we all want to find someone who gets us right.
Absolutely. And magnetic messaging seems to offer a path to do that.
A path that's Well, a little more strategic than just hoping for the best.
Exactly. And it's not just about luck or chance.
Right. It's about taking control, understanding the dynamics at play.
And using that knowledge to create the kind of relationships we want.
I think that's a really empowering message, actually,
It is. It takes some of the mystery out of attraction.
and replaces it with, well, a bit of
A
science.
little psychology, a little strategy.
Exactly. So what do you think? Would you try any of these techniques yourself?
Hmm. You know, I might just have to give it a shot.
I think you should. What have you got to lose?
True. But I definitely want to do it in a way that feels authentic to me.
Oh, absolutely. That's key.
No pun intended.
Huh. Well, on that note, I think we've covered just about everything there is to cover on magnetic messaging.
We've definitely had a thorough deep dive.
We have, from those attention-grabbing texts to the deeper principles of attraction.
It's been a fascinating journey for sure.
It has. And hopefully our listeners are feeling a little more informed.
And maybe even a little bit inspired.
Maybe they'll even try out some of those text message templates.
Hey, you never know. But even if they don't,
Even if they don't, what?
I think there's still a lot to be gained from understanding the psychology behind attraction.
Absolutely. It can change the way you approach dating, even the way you see yourself.
Well said. So to everyone listening, if you're curious about magnetic messaging,
Definitely check it out.
it's a thought-provoking read,
Yep.
even if you don't agree with everything in it.
And who knows, it might just help you unlock a little more magnetism in your own life.
Until next time, happy texting, everyone.